okay, here it is. Mr. Plumber, go to this apartment, unit 5A. It's the same as 5C, like Jake said. It's a lot less time, and there's a lot greater return on
And look
effort.
at the end. Everyone's like, do I own a duplex? Do I put it under an LLC entity? Do I own it in my personal name? All these little issues go away because if you have a 25 unit, you know you're putting it into one entity, one LLC. You go and buy a 100 unit, one entity, one LLC, and there's no issues there. So it's clarity and simplicity. Hello, everybody. This is Jake Stenziano, host of the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, the chef, the father, six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbaro. Gino, how's it going?
Mr. Stenziano, it's only taken us 5 years to get the look of the camera here, getting on live on Facebook. Patience, persistence, and not willing to walk away. Keep grinding, my friend.
So this is a milestone for anyone that's out there in the Facebook Live universe. We said, hey, Zoom has an option to go live, so we're going to record this baby. We're going to put it out there live, and we're just going to do what we can for the folks. So we're here for the people today. We have a special edition of the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast today. Today, the G-Father put together how much money do apartment owners make. So we're gonna dive into the multiple streams of income. We're gonna talk about how apartment investors actually make their moolah. So G Papa, how you doing today?
Doing great. I love this topic because it's an open-ended topic. When we first started, all Jake Stenziano was looking for, the J Daddy there, was the cash flow. That's the only stream of revenue that he understood. And I got to be lying to you if that's the only stream of revenue that I really knew myself. I knew this thing called refi and roll, but I really never executed it, to be honest with you. So we just were thinking about if it don't cash flow, let the grass grow. That's the only thing we were focused on as multifamily investors. We're like, we got to make a couple $1,000 every month on this one property, the second property. That's what we were focused on because that's all we knew, right? So I want everyone to write this down. These are several ways that apartment owners get paid every single day. Even when it's snowing outside New York, I'm paying rent to my mom in the restaurant. She's collecting rent from me, and she's collecting rent from the tenants upstairs.
Gino, real quick, because you mentioned that if it don't cash flow, let the grass grow.
Mm-hmm.
We were literally looking for grass growing because I would say that Gino and I are disciples of Fixture, Jeda, Sema, right?
Yes.
So we love this guy's name's Fixture, Jeda, Sema. He looked for these little cottage-owned apartment complexes, and it was smaller scale than probably what Gino and I are doing now. But he was literally driving around town looking for buildings that had deferred maintenance, looking for owner financing. And if you haven't picked up that book, Investing in Fixer Uppers by Fixture, Jeda, Sema, for folks getting started, I highly recommend it. But that was part of the strategy early on. We were working with brokers and we were looking for deals that were, had deferred maintenance on them because we knew that the owners didn't have proper systems in place and that there was going to be opportunities there. So that it kind of came full circle on that one for me. I'd have to throw that in there. So
I love that, Jake. And what's great about that is it's really your inflection in life, and it's really all about growth. That's where you start. You don't have to end there, right? We didn't have money. Our limiting belief was, well, I don't have any money. I don't have any credibility. Well, when you're buying mom and pops, it's not always about money. It's always about solving the problem. And our first deal was that. We got owner financing on our first deal. That first deal cash flowed tremendously, and it still cash flows $6,000 per month to this day. It was only a 25-unit property. So for anybody out there saying go big or go home, I challenge you. Go out there and look for smaller deals. If you can't find the bigger ones, the smaller ones, they're a lot of work, just like the big ones. But if you need to start somewhere, we started a 25-unit deal. That property prints $6,000 a month every month. Our second deal was a 36-unit property. That thing prints $4,000 to $5,000 every month after we've refied out all our money and then some. So don't be scared off with these smaller deals. That's the first one, cash flow. Jake, let me run through these real quick for everybody. I want them to write them down. Number one, cash flow. Number two, appreciation. Your property is going to appreciate because when you have the NOI, your net operating income, you're increasing it. We're not worried about market comps. We're worried about the income approach. So your appreciation. Number three, refi and roll. We've been able to refi and roll over $10 million from our portfolio. That's tax-free into the next deal. It's basically you're getting a loan to yourself. My dad always told me it's not what you make, it's what you keep. So it's an amazing way to pull money out of a deal, not go out and buy a Lambo. That's where you find the money, and put it into the next deal. If you want to buy the Lambo, go ahead, knock yourself out. But you don't have to do that because you can get the cash flow from one of your deals, go out and lease one of them for 3 grand a month and give the keys back after 3 years and
Ooh.
enjoy the cash flow from it. So that money you refi and rolling, put it into the next deal. Number four, tax benefits, cost segregation. I want everyone to go out there after this recording is done, go on our YouTube page. Tom Wheelwright does a 4 minute, 5 minute overview of cost segregation. You can use this when you're syndicating a deal or talking to potential partners. It's going to break down how amazing cost segregation is, the tax benefits from multifamily. The next one, Jake loves this, the inflation hedge. All of a sudden, prices are going up. Guess what else is going up? Rent is going up. And in Knoxville, Tennessee, rent's been going up an average of between 2 and 4% for the last 5 years. We started back in 2013, one bedroom apartments, $350 a month. Where are they today? 7, 8 years later, they're at 650 plus rubs. So you can see the amazing amount of inflation hedge. When everything else is going up, rents are going up also. The next one, the economies of scale. We started out with a 25-unit property. Guess what? It was awesome because Jake's doing his thing full time. I'm working at the restaurant full time. We can manage a 25-unit property at one shot. We don't have to run around to 6 or 7 or 10 or 15 different single family homes running around. We did one closing. We didn't have to do 25 separate closings. Everything's there. We're collecting the rents. There's one lawn to mow. There's only a few roofs over there. The economies of scale are tremendous. And you're getting paid from that. You know why? Because all the cost savings. And I want everyone to write this one down also. It's ROE. It's return on effort. You're doing a lot less work working and managing a 25-unit apartment complex than you are managing 25 single-family homes. That's the bottom line. Any entrepreneur, and I know a lot of you out there listening to this show will know that that's one of the biggest efforts because your time is worth so much. And in the beginning, Jake had only so much time because he's working 40 hours a week. To manage that 25-unit property, it was doable. And then we got the 36-unit property, and guess what? We've got 60 units, and we have 2 resident managers, and we can still do that while we're working full time. So that economies of scale is an amazing
Gino,
part.
but also the maintenance efficiency. I know this is not
Yes.
sexy and people don't really care to talk about it, but if you want to compare this to single family homes, if you
Hmm.
had 25 single family homes all around the town, not only is it inefficient from the time spent from your maintenance folks driving to each different property,
Hmm.
but think of how different homes are. You get into one home, the breakers are this, the breaker panels over here, the plumbing's this, the plumbing's that. On a contiguous 25 unit or 100 unit or whatever the size complex is, they're going to be able to learn the property and everything's going to be much similar. Therefore, you're going to be not only efficient from a time perspective from getting work orders completed, a time perspective from driving all around to different locations in the single family realm, and just a familiarity component of it, of knowing and understanding the property, because
Hmm.
it's going to be similar to, each unit's going to be very similar to that. Whereas houses, man, and to the even the point you made about the roofs, all those multiple roofs that you're going to have when you
Hmm.
have maybe 6 units under one roof, there's just cost savings that come into it, and that's why it's so much more efficient than single family homes.
And Jake, we didn't even talk about it, but what about the insurance? You need insurance on every single home as
Hmm.
opposed to one insurance policy. It's just less work taking down one 25-unit apartment complex than it is taking, let's say, down
It's a lot
seven
more
or
work.
eight single family homes. And then once they're spread around, we know this because we've learned this. You need maintenance techs. They've got to drive around to different properties instead of saying, okay, here it is, Mr. Plumber, go to this apartment unit 5A. It's the same as 5C, like Jake said. It's a lot less time and there's a lot greater return
And
on
look at
effort.
the
So.
end. Like, everyone's like, do I own a duplex? Do I put it under an LLC entity? Do I own it in my personal name? All
Mhm.
these little issues go away because if you have a 25 unit, you're putting it into one entity, one LLC. You go and buy a 100 unit, one entity, one LLC, and there's no issues there. So it's clarity and simplicity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the last one I think is really important. It's we've titled it cycle resiliency. Now, for those of you that might not understand what that term is, what's going on in this post-pandemic era right now? People are afraid. What's going on with self-storage? It's doing okay. Self-storage is very similar to multifamily. It seems as if it's resilient. Now, we'll see what happens. Now, in certain markets, certain areas, I think it's going to do much better. If you're in New York City with self-storage, you may have problems. People may be leaving, they may be pulling out. But if you have a strip mall right now, or if you have office space, you may be hurting. Multifamily is a basic human need. Jake, food, clothing, and
Apartments, baby.
Those three, food, clothing, and apartments, is a basic human need. We've seen a big demand for our apartments right now in the markets that we're in. And you're seeing it because of the demographics. People have to really go out there and understand what's going on demographically. Millennials and baby boomers, two huge swaths of demographics right now are renting. And the pandemic, what has it done? People are working remotely right now. If you're in San Francisco and Google says stay home for the next 2 years, guess what? You may move out of San Francisco and go to Austin, Texas, where rents are half. People are working right now remotely from home, and they're allowed to, and they can work anywhere they want. So I challenge everybody, go take a look where people are moving to. Take a look where those markets are emerging, and put your stamp in that market, because there are so many places right now in the US that if you're on the news, you think the US is imploding right now, but there's a lot of markets that are really healthy. Come down here to St. Augustine, Florida, where prices have almost doubled in the last 2 years, and there's such a demand. People can work from home right now, and it's really beneficial for people to actually rent an apartment. The other thing, Jake, which is ironic, there's a lot of demand for housing right now. There's not a big supply right now.
Hmm.
So if you're going to go out and buy a home, you're paying top dollar. People know that. They'd rather rent an apartment right now because you know what? It's cheaper. I'm done with the keys, Mr. Stenziano. I don't want this apartment anymore. I'm done. They can give the keys back. Millennials don't want to fix screen doors. They don't want to fix, HVACs.
They
They don't
might
want to
not even
fix.
be capable. No hate. I'm sure there's
Mhm.
folks out there that can, but it's also there's I think
It's a
over the
lifestyle
years.
component, Jake. That's what it is.
Well,
It
well,
really is.
we've become like this technology-driven company, and people are less used to working with their hands and being able to fix stuff. So I think that's a component of it as well. And
Hmm.
the most important thing right now for multifamily is what Gino said. You have to be in a market where there's job growth and population growth. Hey, maybe New York City comes back to what it was, but it could be 10 years from now. Who knows? But there's I think some 8,000 vacant apartments. There's how many was it? 800,000 people that were
800,000 people. Actually, rents have
yeah.
dropped from 3,500 bucks a month to less than 3,000. And this is
800
important.
800,000 people looking for work are out of work though right now, correct?
Yep.
Is that what the
Yes.
stat was? I
Yes.
mean, so that's not where I want to be right now. Maybe you get a deal and maybe it goes up, but personally, I want to be where people are going and jobs are growing and there's growth. I don't want to be in an area that's contracting right now.
And go on and read James Altucher's article. Is it controversial? It may or it may not be, but he makes some excellent points. When the city and the state have closed things up, like Broadway, closed till next year, restaurants, they don't have an in-dining plan right now. It's very important that you know what the local laws are, because what's going on right now is the people who work in those industries, they're gone. They can't afford to live in the city. Are they going to come back when it reopens? Not sure if they can afford to. So a lot of the infrastructure right now in those cities has gone. They've fled. The high income earners, they're going to come back, right? They're going to have to come back sooner or later. But the people who work in the service
Not if
industry,
they don't
like
have a place to
myself,
eat, Gino.
exactly. I mean, 60% of restaurants are completely
Yeah,
shut down. They're not going to reopen. So really
that's
understand the
sad.
market,
Mm.
understand your landlord tenant laws, and understand what's going on, and look at the flows of where people are going to. And, weather is a big issue. Taxes are a big issue. That's why we love Florida. That's why we love Tennessee. That's why Texas is booming right now. Georgia is another great place. Just take a look where those flows are going, and you're going to see the demand. We've actually had some really great demand for our apartments right now, and we're back actually at a growth phase right now. We're back to growing pre-pandemic right now, that people are looking for those apartments.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic point.
So, Jake, I mean, let's talk a little bit about these. I've mentioned them all: cash flow, appreciation, refi and roll, tax benefits, inflation hedge, economies of scale, cycle resiliency. The other one is benefits. You're building a business with multifamily. That's how apartment owners get paid, because you're building an asset. If you have this big portfolio and you just want to sell it off, collateralize the whole thing, put it all together, and just sell it to somebody, that's another way we get paid. You want to hit on anyone specifically, or I
Well,
can
no,
go
it
through
was
them
it was
all?
to your point that you made earlier when you were talking about cash flow. For me personally, even getting into the game, I knew yield. I knew that I wanted another stream of revenue, and I saw multifamily as a basic human need that was going to provide yield. I've
Hmm.
always said that if I was going to do any kind of retail or whatnot, or any kind of other commercial real estate, it would probably be something that people needed to go into, such as other hospitality with barbershops, restaurants. And now look, that has been shattered for me, because you see what's going on with the
Hmm.
pandemic right now. Hospitality is getting crushed because people don't need to go in, and they're being denied that. So early on, I think for me, my limiting belief, you're touching on limiting beliefs before, was I grew up in a small town, and I didn't really see any people who were business owners. So I was like, oh, I can't be a business owner. It just wasn't something that I was exposed to. So that was one of the things that I had to, overcome early on. And that's why I was just simply looking for yield. But once we got in it, I think that's when the floodgates opened. We got into it looking for a certain amount of yield, and then you see these other things start to come out of the woodwork. And the beautiful thing is about multifamily is that, especially where we invest, it's based on the income approach solely. You're not
Mhm.
you're not going to get a deal in Knoxville based on an appraiser's view of appreciation. You're getting it based on the income approach, and that's when you see, like your California, your San Francisco's, and New York. These deals get run up, and right now people are going to be hurt that bought on appreciation that don't have cash flow. So the most important thing is buying from that income approach, making sure that there's going to be either cash flow in place because you're doing a renovation, or there's cash flow in place from the jump because you're buying a stabilized asset. So I don't know, the appreciation thing, I want it to be based on, we did something, we took rents from, like Gino said, on our second deal from 350 to 650. Well, that's true appreciation because the numbers back it up. We're not hoping that we're going to see a big swing just because that's what the market performs in. So I think it's for us buying in markets that are stable and linear, and that's where we've seen a lot of our success as well.
And I think for us, one of the biggest benefits was the refine roll strategy. You can do this on a smaller scale, the duplex or a triplex or a quad, but when you're in the 15 to 20 unit to 50 unit to 100 unit, you can literally extract all the capital that you had in place. And the amazing thing is you're putting more debt on the property, but if you've done it properly, the refine roll, your payments are probably going to stay the same, or it might even go down because you're going to get a certain LTV. You don't over lever. I mean, right now you're going to get
Talk
between
about our Park Place deal so you can give a specific example.
yeah. So when we took this property over, it was 80% occupied. Rents were at 450 a month. Now you're going to say, well, that was 6 years ago. But remember, 6 years ago, the economy was terrible. GDP was 1%. I mean, there was no sentiment. There was a lot of risk. There was no capital out in the market. So it was very hard to actually go out and actually raise capital. And the other thing, Jake, was rates were higher back then. Rates aren't where they are right now. So if you take everything into context, there was a lot more deals out there, but it was harder to close these deals. We had bought this thing for, I think it was really, really cheap, 30,000 a unit. So well below replacement. And we're still buying assets right now below replacement, but not like this. The great thing about this property was it was generating $53,000 per month day one. That's what it was generating. We knew that we could raise rents. They were using units as storage sheds. They were actually really being hard with credit, with their credit checks. There was a manufacturing plant literally 5 minutes down the road that had over 4,000 jobs. So this place should have been completely filled. Within a year, Jake did an amazing job. This is one of our first big rehabs. So that's why I say don't poo-poo the small deals. We learned took our bumps and our bruises the first year with the 25 unit and the 36 unit. We learned how to rehab a unit. We learned some of the systems, some of the processes. And this third unit, the 136 units, was all of a sudden we take over. It's 80% occupied. We've got about 30 to 35 units that are vacant, and it's scary. But at the same time, we bought it on actuals. So we were still cash flowing from day one. And we bought it with a community bank. We go in there, just the three of us. We bought it ourselves. We didn't syndicate it. And we followed the three-step framework. You buy it, you fill up those vacant units, you implement RUBS, the step number 2. And number 3, you fill the remaining, you raise the remaining to market. That first one, I remember I'm sitting in the restaurant, I'm in the kitchen, and my phone is next to me, and I hear pew pew. It's Jake texting me. At
Is
least
that how
another
my
one.
text come across? I get like
Yeah,
special text come like
dude.
lasers. Is this Jedi shit?
Dude, you had the cannon going every time. You had a nice POW cannon because it was so exciting to us. Because all of a sudden we took a unit that was empty. We brought it to $595. That's another $600 per month, $7,000 per year of income. Do that at a 10 cap. It's $70,000 of value for rent for renting every single apartment. At a 5 cap, it's 140 grand. You can see the value we were adding. That's the amazing thing about multifamily. You're adding value, right? And the great thing about multifamily is the more residents you serve, the more money you make. As T. Harv Eker says, it's about quantity. The more quantity you can get out there as an entrepreneur, the more you can sell, the more money you're going to make. So if you're working on 6 or 7 single family homes, you only have 6 or 7 tenants. But if you have a 100-unit apartment complex, you have 100 residents that you can serve. And from there, take a look at it. I don't want to deviate, but real quick, we're going to talk about captive insurance real quick. we're actually have renters insurance that we're actually giving to our residents. We're making money on a captive insurance program. I'll let Jake dive into that. But there's a stream of revenue that we never had any idea even existed, right? So that's the amazing thing about it. So the more residents you have, the more money you can make in multifamily. Getting back to the 80% occupied, 3 to 4 releasing a month. By the end of that year, the income goes from 53,000 per month to 85,000 per month. And that's also charging people late fees, application fees. We had some storage fees in there. We had pet fees. So we were crushing it on the income side, running it really well. And that property went from $4 million valuation to $6 million valuation based on the income approach. Just from that, within 18 months of that property, we went and we refied it back to the community bank. We pulled out $1.6 million. That was our nest egg to go out and to buy the next 2 deals. It was amazing because that was found money. And you know what, guys, in the beginning, it was really hard. I used the HELOC. Jake stood up his grandparents, said, "Grandma, Grandpa, you got to give me some money." But we knew down the road, we knew down the road that we
I
got
used
to
the HELOC too, and I blew up my 401k, my Roth IRA.
exactly, because we knew that there was so much value in this. We had the
Yep.
broker hold a note on the commission for $50,000. We borrowed money from one of our partners. So when we refinanced that property, all that money came back to us. We paid everybody back. It was good debt. It was business debt. We were investing in the business, and that all came back. And then, believe it or not, a year and a half later, we refinanced it a second time. We went to the agency. We went from community bank to agency. Our payment did not go up because we went from a 25-year amortization to a 30-year amortization. We went to 3 years of interest only, and income went from 85,000 a month to well over 100,000 a month right now. So you're seeing
We're over 115 a month on that property. So if you look at what happened, we started at 53, then we got it up over 80. Now we're over 115 a month, and we bought this in. It was actually we
2014.
closed. I don't know why we always close on holidays, but it was literally Valentine's Day in 2014. So it's 6 years in that deal.
That's really important that you say that because this is all about pushing through and making it happen. February 14th, I remember it clear as day because it was a really big holiday for the restaurant. We do no business during the winter. This is the only day of February that we make money, and we had a snowstorm the day before. 2 feet of snow in New York. Our partner Mike is going on vacation. He doesn't have his money in. Jake is stressing out. I barely go to the bank and get my money in. And it was like divine intervention. We'd been working on this deal for 4 months trying to get this price down.
Well, he was flying to like Jamaica or
yes.
something. And this was the deal that literally set me free personally in my life.
Yes.
And so I remember just like sweating because the wire did not come in. I'm like, if this thing falls apart, we're never going to see something like this again.
Yeah.
And we obviously did more deals, but this was huge for me. This was the deal that really changed my life.
So, and this is the refine roll. You're buying it right. You have to implement in the 3-step framework, the proprietary, buy right, manage right, finance right. You buy it right, you're able to refine roll the deal, right? And we've bought deals in the last 2 years. Some of them are refiable, some of them aren't. That's not the strategy we're employing. You have to know what part of the market cycle. But this deal, we've refied it twice. We've pulled out almost $4 million from this one deal. Not over levered. It's probably 75% LTV. We cost segregated this deal also, so we've got the tax benefits on this. And this is one of those deals we're going to keep internally for a long time. It's brick.
Yeah, late
it's
90s
build.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just an amazing deal. So you really have to understand the refine roll. Now, the tax benefits, we can gloss over them real quick.
Hold on one second because
sure.
I'm going to call you out here a little bit. So you said these deals aren't like they're harder to find now. That may be true, but you just closed on a deal 2 weeks ago, brick, mid 80s build, 40 a door. Okay. And it was similar. There's the less occupancy in the deal we just closed on, but it's not that far off from the Park Place deal. If we're being honest, we've been disciplined and we're waiting for our pitch. We're waiting for the right one to come. And when they do, we jump on it. So I think the deal we just bought in Morristown, what we closed 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 40 a door, lower occupancy than the Park Place deal we just talked about, but great area, got mix of 2s and 1s on it. And dude, I think this is going to be a classic refi and roll. So, we if we're buying stabilized, we like to see higher cash flows in place. This is going to take a minute to get there, but I think this is very much could be a repeat on a smaller scale of the Park Place deal.
And this is important that you say that. This probably would not have been our third or fourth deal, right? This is a deal that
Right.
we have experience but what's really important is we have our parameters in place. We have what cap rates we want to achieve. We have what cash on cash returns we want to achieve once the deal is repositioned, because there's not really that much right now. We have different tools in the toolbox. This is not a deal that we're syndicating. You could syndicate this deal, but you need to tell your investors, hey, for the next 6 to 12 months, there's probably no preferred rates of return.
They
We're
need to have
able.
the right risk tolerance as well. Like I think that, yeah.
Yes. Well,
So
you need to have equity. You need to explain to your investors, we're going to refi this thing out. We're going to pull all your money out and give you all your money back within the next 12 to 18 months. Are you good with that? Most of them
yeah.
would say, yeah, I am good, but you have to have some type of track record. We've done this several times. We've done this a lot of times. If you're starting out, this may not be one of those deals, but just having those criteria in place of what you're trying to achieve. The cost segregation is going to be great on this property. Also, we're going to do a cost seg on this property. We're going to hold this property. And like Jake said, the other parameters, the location, the market is great. We're next to a Chick-fil-A. We're next to a Lowe's. There's a big demand in that town for apartments,
Path
which
of
is also
progress.
important.
Yep.
Exactly. So there's all those things where you need to, really fill out. What I want everyone to do when this recording, the podcast is over, sit down and spend a few minutes on what your buying criteria is. What are you looking for when you're buying these properties? Are you looking for a stable asset? Right, stable. That's fine. Are you looking also for something we would say has a little more hair on it? This had a little more hair on it, but we know the potential, but we know that there's value and we're able to solve a problem. There's a lot of units there that haven't been turned in a while, but they're basically garden style apartments. We know what they're
And
going to
it's going to
cost
be the
to
same
turn.
turn over and over again. So we have this goes back to that maintenance component. We have
Hmm.
a standardized turn in place. The guys know exactly what we're doing. We have our own in-house flooring. They're going to roll new flooring out. We have the paint scheme. We have the light fixtures. Everything is detailed. So it's just duplicating the process time and
And,
time again.
and Jake, the other important thing is we know where this property can go. Everyone on this call right now needs to know their numbers. We know what we're going to be able to run this property at per door in expenses. We know where we can get rents, and we know the value adds. It's a 48 unit property that Jake said, but guess what? The office is going to be turned into 2 additional apartments, which we're probably going to net another $1,300 or $1,400 a month in rental income from. So that's amazing. On this property, what we do like, there's no pool. We don't like pools on smaller properties, so that saves us a decent
I
amount
don't
of
like
money.
pools in general, man.
Yeah.
I hate maintaining water.
I love swimming in it, bro. It's great, but when you have it, when you have a smaller property, it's not cost effective. And these bigger properties are much better. But knowing your numbers is really important when you're getting in there. Don't pencil whip a deal. We know at 40 a door, we're going to be into it for $45,000 per unit, right? Once that's there, we know that we're going to be able to refi this thing. It's going to be worth 60,000 per unit. So we're going to extract all the money we put in and then some.
So I want to touch on the tax component for a second. So multifamily
Hmm.
has tax benefits, but I don't want people out there to think, oh, it's tax exempt or something like this.
Hmm.
There's strategies that you can use with cost segregation to help on your federal income taxes. But we pay a ton in property taxes, just
Yes.
like everybody else. We pay a ton in franchise and excise tax. We still pay, depending on the state that we're in, there could be a state income tax. There's the filing fees, the regulatory stuff. So look, it's a business, and we still pay a lot in taxes, but it does benefit when you do have a swell of depreciation personally on your federal income taxes. But it's not to say that we're not paying a lot in other places, but there isn't a benefit there when you use cost segregation. You buy a lot of properties, you build up a swell of depreciation to help out with your federal taxes, but there's still other obligations that you have to do. So I think there's sometimes a misconception out there. While there's definitely benefits to it, it's not like something where you're just opting out of contributing to society, if you will, kind of thing. So I just want to
So
make sure
the
folks are clear on
great
that.
segue, because there's a couple of things that we often overlook. With apartments, you can actually change the community and make it a much better and a much safer place to live. I brought my daughter down on the community 2 weeks ago because I want my kids to be there. And I challenge everyone who has children, include them in your business. Let them know early on what cash flow
Hmm.
means. Let them learn early on what debt means. We have the Youth Academy. I'm going to put the Youth Academy in the notes below. We created the Jake and Gino Youth Academy to teach parents how to talk to kids about money, how to talk to kids about investments, about balance sheets. And my daughter's there. We're walking through these apartments, and it's some of these apartments, they look like Chernobyl. They haven't been turned in 3 years, right? And she says, Dad, once you get through this property, you're going to be raising the rents, right? And I'm like, yeah, Gabriella, that's the model. I said, if I don't do it, some other owner is going to do it. She says, well, what happens when these people can't pay? I'm like, Gabs, that's a great question. There's moral and there's ethics there. But I said to her, right now, these people are not being served. They've got leaky faucets for the last year. Their air conditioning is not working properly. They're
It's
not
been
being.
months because they refuse to put any money into AC units. So just know that while it may be 450, 500 right now, they weren't
Mhm.
able to sustain at that level and or serve folks properly. So we want to serve people at a high level with a reasonably priced apartment home. So that's
Mhm.
the difference. But it takes money to be able to do that.
That's right. And the parking lot is dangerous. I mean, the parking lot looked
It
like it
is.
got hit by a
Our insurance
bomb.
guy fell in it.
Knee
Kelly
deep.
Thomas, shout out.
Knee deep.
He had some
So
nice shoes on too. I feel bad. We invited one of our friends out, and he got his shoes dirty. But it's part of it, right? Just
Kelly.
wait. Hey, here's a tip for everybody. I'm gonna just when you're on an apartment complex, look,
Mhm.
duck boots. Okay, you never know when there's pets that they forgot to pick up, or there might be. Yeah, you want to wear duck boots when you're on the apartment
So
complexes.
I basically my bottom line to Gabriella was, Gabriella, I feel more comfortable not raising these rents, but providing the service, a safe, clean, affordable apartment. Because right now they're not being served. They're living in, I don't want to call it squalor, but it's pretty close to it. So if they
Well,
can't
it's been
afford
neglected
it,
for the last 6 months.
yeah,
So
if they
yeah.
can't afford it, they're just going to go find another place to live. But right now, I think these people, I mean, like Jake said, if you break it down, it's going to cost an average. The rent's going to go to. It's going to cost an average of, if they're being employed, $12 per hour, basically, to be able to afford the apartment that we're
Yeah, if
providing.
you're making 12, where we're going with rents, if you're making $12 an hour, it will still be less than 30% of your take home. So that's
Hmm.
because the threshold is typically 20 to 30% of your gross is typically what people are willing to spend on an apartment home. So look, I know there's people that make less than $12 an hour, but I think that's sort of the break even where you can actually get into one of our apartment homes. So
So
yeah.
my point, Jake, was apartment owners also make money, but by feeling great. I mean, that idea that the mail lady can deliver and not feel afraid to get on the property, right? That idea that you can offer somebody an apartment to live in where they can't buy a home, but you're offering a place for them to live and create
That's
memories. And
safe, clean, and affordable.
yeah,
Yes.
that's something that's amazing, and it's a great learning lesson for my children to know that if you're an entrepreneur and you're creating these kinds of businesses, that's what your focus is. Your focus is, number one, always should be on your employees. We have an amazing RAN team. We're focusing always on supporting our employees, because then those employees are going to follow through on our core values and focus on the customers or the residents that we have, or the Jake and Gino members, whatever that may be. And then from there, ultimately, the owners will get paid from it. So it's always employees, then the employees take care of the customers, and then the customers ultimately reward the shareholders, the owners. So that's what multifamily is all about, focusing on those three. And we've been able to really, through this whole pandemic, I give Jake a ton of credit. We haven't let anyone go from the pandemic. We've been able to sustain our employment and actually add team members. And that's the amazing thing about multifamily. If it's run properly, you're going to employ some amazing people and grow businesses and grow systems. And we've also allowed our employees to invest in the deals with us dollar for dollar. So that's been an amazing thing for me also, is to not only make ourselves create wealth for our families, but create wealth for other families that we never would have had an option to do that on their own, but being able to do that through the Ram fam.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You asked me to touch on the captive before we
Yes.
kind of started going off there. But so essentially, we have in-house insurance for our renters. So
Hmm.
we require everyone to have renter's insurance that covers their contents and actually the building. So that's required. And now that we have enough scale, we're actually able to own that company and create another stream of revenue. So if you ever want to, reach out to us and ask, we're more than happy to share our contacts, with the Jake and Gino members when they're getting into their own captive type insurances. So we
Jake,
are we are
I
doing
love
that.
that. I love that. And let me just end with this, and then I'll let you wrap it up, Jake. There are so many ways that apartment owners can get paid. In the very beginning, you're just thinking about cash flow and buying that first deal, and it's exciting. You don't know how to start, where to go. But as you start scaling up, you can look at the Rain Power Wheel. We added an education company. From the education company, we started doing podcasts and media and writing books and selling education. Then from there, Jake had already started the Rand Property Management. So he had a property management arm, creating money from that property management arm. Then from there, we started syndicating deals. All of a sudden, we have an investment company where we're syndicating deals and creating acquisition fees and putting money in these deals, getting pieces of the general partnership. And then from there, we started Rand Capital, where we're doing mortgages for our students. And from there, we have Rand Cares, which is a charitable arm. And that's a way that we get paid also. Maybe not get paid monetarily, but get paid for feeling great and being able to, donate time and donate resources and donate our treasure to any worthy causes that we see. So there's just the Power Wheel works so well. And starting from that one little property, I know everyone out there who's starting, it's just really, they can't conceive of it. And it doesn't have to take that long. We've only been doing this for less than a decade, and we've been able to create this amazing business that has a symbiotic relationship from one small little 25 unit crackdown of a property where we continue to work and we continue to learn and continue to push ourselves, and we're able to add all of these different streams of revenue. We can get into the laundry component, or the cable contract component, or we can get into the cell tower component. There's so many different components within multifamily that has so many different revenue generating. Jake had touched on the captive insurance. There's so many different components within the investment itself, but you can also look outside of the investment and start building businesses that are symbiotic. You want to start a title company that starts taking these assets down?
I
You
want
want
a
to start
title
an insurance
company.
company?
I just
I
can't
know
get
you
in on
do.
it.
But you know what? That may be that may be 2022. There's so many different avenues. The bottom line for me is, don't have shiny object syndrome. Really learn whatever business you're trying to crush. If you're in single family homes, really learn that space really well. If you're in multifamily or self-storage, learn it really.
So Gino, had that little hiccup there on my end, I think, but we got you back here. So
Yes.
one thing that I wanted to bring up is that once you're in the business and you're really starting to grow and scale, it comes down to people, systems, and culture. And I, for one, have never been, especially prior to our organization, one that was, highly active in, charitable giving. My company that I used to work for in the pharmaceutical world would do something, once a year. But what we found is that, our folks, this was a big demand from our folks. So simply by being involved with a community of great people, it
Mm-hmm.
pulled me into a more charitable state because our folks were asking for it, and it's been a great way to give back. And me personally, in the last year, I found many more times where there was opportunities to, and maybe it's not always time, but it's just giving. There's been
Mm-hmm.
different instances where multiple times for employees where we've been able to do some things that were really nice for some employees that were in need, or if Gino and I were
Mm-hmm.
at a different podcast and there was an opportunity to give, and it's helped me grow as a person, if I'm being completely honest, because those opportunities have come up. And before I may have been, a little more frugal, to use, a weak term, but now it's more so when I get into these situations, it's more, hey, let's just do it. Let's just give them money if we think it's a just cause. And then I find myself in a much better state personally, because it's like, hey, when you don't give, you're sitting there questioning yourself and you probably have regrets. And when you do, you actually, it's uplifting, and it's sort of
Mm-hmm.
like that pay it forward thing. So it's just from a personal standpoint, it's helped me, just by being among such a great team, and to start to, grow out this, charitable component of the organization as well. One last thing before we sign off here. I think the thing I want to touch on is that, look, business is a full contact sport. I don't care what business you're in. And I feel for the folks that are in the more hospitality driven industries like the restaurants, because I know they've been hit much harder than us. But for me, it's all about selecting the best vehicle to be in, and gaining mastery at something. So for Gino and myself, we believe multifamily is the best vehicle to be in, and we work day in and day out to gain mastery at it, to create a great lifestyle for ourselves, our employees, our residents. That's really what we're here doing. But that doesn't mean that it comes without its lumps. We were doing great going into February. I remember, I was heading down to Florida to visit Gino before all this stuff got, crazy. We were absolutely crushing it. And then March hit, and we had to change the game. We had to do virtual leasing.
Mm-hmm.
We took a dip in our overall operating revenue. And so you had a time from March to July where we were working a lot more than we had in the past. We were figuring out how the business was changing and adapting. And I just want to give a shout out to our entire team, because going back to last month, we actually started to slightly tick up again on the growth side of things. And it just means so much to me. And it's a testament to all the hard work and the team that we have, because
Hmm.
it wasn't easy. And look, we're still in it, and we'll see what the next month looks like if we can keep this going. But it's I think it's a testament to the vehicle. I think we're in the right vehicle, and the culture and the folks that we have around us.
And the
Um,
business, the ability to build the
yeah.
business, right? Because we have a scalable business where we
Yes.
have employees, and there's a demand for what we're selling right now. So
So, guys, appreciate everyone being with us today on our first ever Facebook Live. If you want to learn more about the Jake and Gino community, go to jakeandgino.com/honeybee. There you're going to receive a free download of our credibility book and free honeybee resources on how you can build multiple streams of revenue and apply to work with our team. Gino, this was fun. A little bit different today. We're constant improvement, always learning and growing.
that's right, Jake. Constant improvement, commit, and then figure it out. That's what
Amen,
life is all
brother.
about. Thanks,
And the
Jake.
two of us, the fact that we're even on a podcast live right now is a testament to that, because we are a couple of tech dummies. So well done, sir.
All right. Thanks,
See you
everybody.
guys.
Let's go out there and let's make it happen. Are you looking for ways to improve your life?
Here at Jake and Gino, our mission is to empower students through financial education and the vehicle of multifamily investing.
Yes, Jake. We agree that a person with financial intelligence can change the world for the better.
We've created our proprietary 3-step framework: buy right, manage right, and finance right, that we teach to our community. This framework, along with education, our one-on-one mentorship, on-site boot camps, and the amazing community, has propelled our students to massive success.
We've all been there. We've had so many students that have been able to shift their mindset, overcome limiting beliefs, and set a clear path to achieve their goals. Whether you're currently fixing and flipping, wholesaling, or buying single family rentals, and you know that multifamily investing is the right vehicle for you, I encourage you to visit jakeandgino.com/apply to schedule your complimentary consultation with our team. And I want to let you know this isn't a high pressure sales call. It's really just a discovery call to get to know each other better and see if we're a good fit for working together. And if for any reason we're not a good fit, our team has tons of resources we will share with you to help you along your journey.
If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels, go to jakeandgino.com/apply and schedule your call now.